Hello rad people, TWK here, and welcome to my stream of conscious style video on The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, which by the time you see this video is now 25 years old. Hard to believe that much time has passed, and yet, here we are. Hopefully my video here will be able to do the game some level of justice. Starting off, we have Kokiri Forest. This is a perfect starting area. First, we have to find a sword, which is easy enough after a little exploration. Next is a shield, which requires the player to find 40 rupees. I've noticed that players can get a bit tripped up on where to find them, so hopefully this footage will help out a bit because some of them can be well hidden. After that, we can head to our first dungeon, inside the Great Deku Tree, and it's kind of amazing how much the N64 can render at once when you consider how primitive the technology was. Once we climb to the top of the old tree, we jump down to the bottom where we eventually find the boss of the dungeon, Queen Goma. She's quite the infamous pushover, and even more so if you use a Deku Stick, which, I kid you not, has the exact same power as the Master Sword. After a long bit of exposition, we leave the forest, receive an ocarina as a gift from our pal Saria, before running off into Hyrule Field. This place has become quite contentious due to its wide open landscape of nothingness, but allow me to defend it real quick. During the 5th and 6th generation of consoles, developers were learning on the job how to create and properly utilize 3D environments. I don't envy the devs having to carry that much weight on their shoulders. Obviously, Hyrule Field isn't perfect, but for 1998, it more than gets the job done as a decent hub area that connects all the different districts of Hyrule. A quick tip for this area, don't just follow the road, head straight for Hyrule Castle Town and you're almost guaranteed to make it there before nightfall hits. Speaking of the field at night, once the moon arrives, so do the Stall Children, and I'm not gonna lie to you all, they used to scare the hell out of me as a kid. Like legit turn the console off ASAP scared. Gotta remember, I was a kid, and these were the most realistic graphics of all time back in the day. Moving on to the castle town, we meet a girl by the name of Madeline who gifts us an egg that will help us on our quest. It does so as said egg hatches, and we use the Kuko to wake up Madeline's father Talon, whom heads off to his neglected daughter in quite the hurry. Following a super easy stealth section, we finally meet with Princess Zelda, who sets us off on our journey to collect 3 MacGuffins to stop the evil Ganondorf. Oh, forgot to mention, Deku Tree gave us the first one before he died. Oh yeah, the Deku Tree is also dead. Hope I didn't forget to mention anything else. Anyway, Zelda gives us a letter with her autograph, and her assistant Impa teaches us Zelda's Lullaby, which we'll be using a lot. Next stop, Kakariko Village. First, we round up some Kukos to earn our first empty bottle. Then we head to a grave to learn the Sun Song, which not only paralyzes the undead, but also moves time forward. After that, we do some gold Skulltula hunting so that we can head into this here house to earn ourselves a little object known as the Adult's Wallet, which will allow us to carry 200 rupees instead of the default 99. Then we head back into Hyrule Field and we travel to Lon Lon Ranch to learn Epona's song, which isn't important now, but it will be later on, so keep that little bit of knowledge in your back pocket. We also play a minigame with Talon to earn bottle number 2, except this one is not empty, it comes with good old-fashioned milk. And with all that side content out of the way, we head back into Kakariko Village and show Zelda's letter to a guard who opens the gate to Death Mountain. From here, we head to Goron City where their leader Darunia is feeling super salty and we need a fresh tune to lighten his mood. Thankfully, we can open up a path to Kokiri Forest and head through the Lost Woods, and after a small trek through a maze filled with scrubs, we find Saria. I feel like there could be a TLC joke in there somewhere. She teaches us Saria's song, seems a bit narcissistic, but okay, which we use to not only ease the mind of Darunia, but inadvertently turn him into a dancing fool. For making him a happy McChappy, Darunia gives us a Goron bracelet, which allows us to lift up bomb flowers, which we use to blow open the entrance to our next dungeon, Dodongo's Cavern. This dungeon is fine. It has a decent little layout where it wraps around, then sends the player up a level where we bomb the eyes of a giant Dodongo skull, which leads us into the lair of the boss, King Dodongo. He is nothing to write home about, just toss a bomb into his mouth, then use the Hylian shield to defend and repeat until the title of king becomes his former occupation. His current one is corpse. After avoiding unwanted hugs, we head up to the top of Death Mountain, which includes avoiding falling rocks. Well, mostly avoiding them. It's here where we meet our first great fairy, who instills upon us the power of magic, which is required for certain parts of the game, so definitely be sure to visit her. After that, we venture through Zora's River to get to Zora's Domain, which has some awesome music that I'd love for you all to hear, but Nintendo will copyright claim this video instantly, so I'll just recommend you find the OST and check it out for yourself. Anyways, we play a minigame where we dive for rupees, and as a prize, we not only get paid, but we also get a silver scale, which will help us dive underwater for longer amounts of time. As such, we're able to discover a shortcut to Hyrule Lake, where we find a bottle with a letter in it. We deliver it to the King Zora, who informs us that it's a request to help his daughter Ruto, who seems to have gotten eaten by Lord Jabu Jabu. Following the sight of King Zora rubbing his ass all over Hyrule's water supply, we catch a fish and use it to enter Lord Jabu Jabu himself. Man, someone at Nintendo seems to have a bit of a vor fetish, don't they? So, LJJ, it's a pretty linear affair, so no complaints from me, and despite us having to escort Princess Ruto around for about half of it, it's not a bad time. I guess it helps that the enemies target the player and not whom we're escorting through the dungeon. We eventually find MacGuffin numero 3 and help Ruto get it, only for the princess to get abducted. How stereotypical of you, Ruto. I'm disappointed. We defeat the giant Octorok and eventually connect some platforms, which allows us to enter the lair of the boss, Baronade. Just use the boomerang to take out the jellyfish and eventually stun it, allowing you to hit it with the good old Deku Stick. Ruto then gifts us with our third plot coupon, and we're off to Hyrule Castle in order to get our plan into real motion. Plans change, however, as Zelda is seen fleeing the castle with Impa and tosses an object into the moat. No time for that as Ganondorf straight kicks our ass. After Ganondorf rides off, we retrieve the titular item of the game, the Ocarina of Time! And through the power of magic, Zelda teaches us the Song of Time and informs us to head to the Temple of Time. Time to time. Before that, we can head into a back alley and witness a guard's final moments, which is a pretty bleak sight for what many consider to be a fairly family-friendly affair. Nevertheless, we deposit our plot stuffs, grab the Master Sword only to be teleported to the Chamber of Sages, where the Sage of Light Rauru tells Link that he's pretty much been asleep for the past 7 years, as the world is fucked and now it's our problem to solve. After being returned to the TOT, we are greeted by a dude by the name of Sheik, whom tells us of our next goal, awaken some sages and collect some more plot tokens. After leaving the now re-dead infested ruins of Hyrule Castletown, we head over to Lon Lon Ranch in order to race the new owner, Ingo. Yeah, he kinda usurped Talon and we can't allow that to go unpunished, and as a prize for winning 2 consecutive races, we can now use Epona to traverse Hyrule Field. Our next stop is Kakariko Village, but more specifically the graveyard, and even more specifically the grave of the former keeper of the graveyard, Dampé. It's here where we have to follow him through what can only be described as a death course, and for surviving it, he gifts us with his prized possession, the hookshot. From here, we head back to Kokiri Forest, which has definitely seen much better days. I mean, these weeds are absolutely out of control. After navigating through both the Lost Woods and the maze, we are once again met by Sheik, who teaches us the Minuet of Force, which allows us to warp to this location. And now for the Force Temple. Our goal is to relight the 4 torches, and to do so, we'll need to defeat the 4 Poe Sisters. This isn't too difficult, just make sure you explore the temple thoroughly and collect every key. I know some can be hidden rather well, so hopefully I'm helping out once again with this footage. After defeating the 4 sisters, we take the elevator down into the basement where we find our boss of the dungeon, Phantom Ganon. The first phase is comically easy, just shoot him with your arrows before he comes out of the painting. Easy peasy. Phase 2 is slightly challenging, but that's more to do with how finicky rebounding his magic is. Nevertheless, taking him down isn't too difficult. After that, we do a really lengthy trading side quest that takes us all over the Kingdom of Hyrule. Why do we do this, you may ask? The answer is actually quite simple. For trading all of these items with one another, we get the best weapon in the game, the Big Goron Sword! I also took the liberty of taking care of the bottom of the well to get the Lens of Truth because, why not? It's a short dungeon. Dead Hand is still creepy as fuck though. Okay, Fire Temple time! Ganondorf has abducted all of the Gorons, and it's up to Darunia and us to save them. Throughout this dungeon, we actually are going to be rescuing them, so hooray for accomplishing things! Our boss for this dungeon is none other than the Dragon Volvagia, who would be a decent challenge if we didn't already get this big old sword to slice him with. After that, we head on over to Zora's Domain, which has been frozen over, and thus we head into another mini-dungeon, the Ice Cave. Our reward for completing it is not only the Iron Boots, but Sheik teaching us the Serenade of Water, which warps us to an almost empty Hyrule Lake. And now for the Water Temple, and yeah, this temple is still bottom tier for me, and here's why, because it isn't difficult. My problems are twofold. One, constantly switching the Iron Boots on and off becomes really tedious really quickly. Secondly, the temple is designed in a way where you're just constantly returning to the center hub area after being in one of the side rooms for only a few moments. This means that the player never really gets the feeling of making progress that other dungeons give you. The only way you can really tell that you're moving forward is the fact that you're constantly getting keys and eventually our new item, the Long Shot, which is an upgraded hook shot. I will say the Dark Link fight is rather nice, except that I cheesed it because I have the Big Goron Sword, so I aims to use it. Our boss here is Morpha, and this thing is a gigantic pushover, but after spending what feels like an age in this place, I just want to leave, so whatever makes this part go by faster. Next, we head back to Kakariko Village, which is on fire. That's a big no bueno if I've ever seen one. Also, Sheik is here, and we both get our asses handed to us by an invisible being. After regaining consciousness, Link is taught the Nocturne of Shadow, which warps us to our next dungeon, the Shadow Temple. The Shadow Temple is the exact opposite of the Water Temple, 100% linear, and you know what? I'll take it. What it lacks in exploration though, the Shadow Temple more than makes up for in presentation with all of its spooky imagery. My favorite part is being on this boat, which is kinda like Sharon guiding us across the river Styx. Our boss here is Bongo Bongo, aka Nintendo's favorite boss design, 2 hands and a head! At least this one has a creepy look to him, so easy top tier hands and head boss design for sure. After that, we head off to Gerudo Fortress, which is also one of the best tracks in the game and just in video games in general, and we do some stealthing around the place to rescue some carpenters. We also engage in some combat, which does require some strategy from the player, so time your shots carefully. For rescuing the simpletons, we're gifted with membership to the Gerudo tribe, which allows us to enter the Desert Wasteland. After navigating the place and following a Poe, we eventually arrive at the Desert Colossus, but we can't do anything at the Spirit Temple yet. To solve this little problem, Sheik teaches us the Requiem of Spirit, aka the Spirit Temple Warp Song. So, we warp back to the TOT, go back in time, warp to the Spirit Temple, make a deal with the second-in-command Nabooru, who is no Ganondorf fan herself, make our way through the first half of the temple, and grab the Silver Gauntlets for Nabooru. Unfortunately for her, Nabooru gets captured, which means, hey, free gear for us. We then travel back to the future, then back here, and complete part 2, which nabs us the Mirror Shield, and it looks snazzy as ever with these early 3D graphics. Before we face the boss of the temple, we encounter an Iron Knuckle who kicks our ass pretty well, mainly because, le gasp, it was a brainwashed Nabooru all along. She then gets teleported away by the bosses of the Spirit Temple, Koume and Kotake. Their fight is less difficult and more just tedious as you have to use the Mirror Shield to aim one sister's magic attack at the other, and they're not always lined up perfectly. Thankfully, Phase 2 is much easier as they merge, and we just have to worry about storing 3 consecutive shots of the same magic spell. And with all that, we head back to the TOT where Sheik reveals himself to be, dun dun dun, Princess Zelda, Super Legasp, and she gifts us with the Light Arrow. Following that, she gets abducted by Ganondorf, which leads us to our final dungeon of the entire game, Ganon's Castle. It's basically a retread of previous dungeons, just in truncated form. Not the biggest fan of this part of the game as it kinda feels like filler, but that could just be me. We do get some fun iron knuckle fights at least. And now for our final boss, Ganondorf. We once again play a good old game of Devil's Volley followed by a few slashes of the big Goron sword. Rinse and repeat a few times and Ganondorf is now of the dead. With Evil Bastard defeated and Zelda rescued, we make our way out of the castle only momentarily stopped by one random re-dead. But, super duperly gasp, Ganondorf lives and transforms himself into his ultimate form, known simply as Ganon! Ooh, spooky spooky. This fight is super easy, probably because I got the big honkin' sword, but regardless, in a matter of moments, with help from Zelda, we take down the evil with a good ol' head stabby. Following that, Zelda uses the Ocarina time to send us back to our correct timeline, which takes us to the After Arc celebration from the NPCs. I wonder if Odo was inspired by this. Regardless, that was The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and despite its flaws, this was still one hell of a journey. As you can tell, I did not 100% it for this playthrough, but if you've never played it before, then that just means you have some new stuff to look forward to after watching this video. As for everything I did show, most of it holds up pretty well, definitely better than 90% of games that were out during this time. Yeah, it uses the same blueprints as A Link to the Past, but it also takes said blueprints and pushes them into 3D, which was a gigantic gamble at the time. And thankfully it paid off. I know some prefer 2D Zeldas, but 3D is always going to be where it's at, as far as I'm concerned. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Certainly different from my normal style, but I wanted to end my current journey through the N64 catalog with a bang. I'd also like to thank all the new viewers and subscribers that have arrived during my trek through said console. I really wasn't expecting so many videos to garner the views that they did, so once again, thank you. As for what's next, how about we get back on the PS5 with a trip to... how's Colorado sound? Until next time, I hope you all have a perfect rest of your day.